Chapter 4. Ariphron the Traveler. For weeks after the triumph, Mummius the general was very busy with the army. He must disband certain troops, reorganize others, distribute the spoils among them, and keep them contented. More and more these returning armies, made up largely of non-Romans, were a lawless element in Rome. For their general, however, they were a great power. Mummius brought home so many slaves that Tertia had to beg him to take back some. The house was burdened with them. There were no duties for them, and they fell to quarreling. Tertia was an economical domina and never kept slaves for mere show, as so many matrons did. "Take them away, Lucius," she pleaded. "They are eating their heads off." In all this while, Mummius made time to go home and see how Flavius was faring. He learned his lessons after school, taught him the use of spear and sword. Roman fathers were usually close to their sons, but Mummius had been away on campaigns so often and so long that he scarcely knew his. As for Flavius, he regarded his father with enormous awe. Mummius was a heavy-set man and had the proper manner for a commanding general. He never unbent and seldom smiled. It was not long before the men of the city began to talk of electing Mummius as consul. This was the most important office in the whole Roman Republic. There were 2 consuls, who together ruled with almost royal pomp. 12 lictors or heralds walked before each of them when they appeared to clear their way. Now Mummius was busier than ever, with all the business of a candidate running for election. He seemed constantly to be talking with prominent citizens. For days at a time Flavius did not even see him, and lesson rehearsals were abandoned. As time went on, Flavius turned more and more to Ariphron. In the first place, Ariphron made the Greek lessons and experience more exciting than Flavius had dreamed of. So each day he looked forward to the stories about Homer's heroes, and each day he found it easier to answer the questions in Greek. At the noon hour of school, Ariphron taught the pupils as he had promised, running, jumping, throwing the discus. The boys worked madly at these things, anxious to excel. They began to feel they were the luckiest schoolboys in Rome. Flavius kept remembering that first morning in the Forum when Ariphron said, "I have seen more beautiful things." At last he asked Ariphron, "If you had seen places more beautiful than our Forum, what are they? Where are they?" Ariphron smiled dreamily, as if he were far away. "The Acropolis of Athens," he answered, "the divine temple on the height, not so large as other temples, but of a perfection, a perfection!" Then he began telling him about one thing after another built on that noble rock in Athens, until Flavius seemed to be seeing it himself. Thus began the tales of Ariphron's travels. He had seen the great temple at Ephesus, the Pharos or lighthouse at Alexandria, that enormous tower with a fire burning atop of it which lighted ships far out at sea. It was the first of all lighthouses. He had seen the pyramids of Egypt. "They are the oldest thing that man has made. No one knows their beginning," Ariphron said. "They are covered with polished stone, and when the sun shines upon them they dazzle the eyes. They seem like mountains for the gods to dwell on, but they are not beautiful. They are only stupendous." "How did you see all these places?" Flavius questioned. "How did you ever get to them?" "My father had 4 ships," Ariphron told him. "I often sailed on them to see that the men did their duty. I know the ports of the world." "Now tell me of Corinth," commanded Flavius. "Corinth, Corinth," repeated Ariphron, and suddenly there came into his eyes that same blue fire that Flavius had seen on the first day. "Never, son of Mummius," he said harshly, "never will you know Corinth from me." And he walked away into the slave rooms. Flavius did not see him for the rest of that day. Then Flavius remembered how almost always when Ariphron was alone, and Flavius came upon him so, he had in his face a deep settled sadness. Flavius was too young to know it was despair. One day Flavius came upon him sitting in the corner of their room. "What is the matter?" he questioned. Ariphron bowed his face upon his knees. "What is the matter, little Flavius?" he said brokenly. "Only the death of my father and mother. Only the death of my brother and best friend, and the disappearance of all the rest. Only my city burning, burning forever in my mind." After that, Flavius never brought up the subject again. Mummius had destroyed Corinth, and it had been Ariphron's home.